Wait, sorry. This started in last any attendees yet.
I call the meeting of the Falmouth Public Schools to order for January 10th, 2023, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to remind everyone, that this meeting is being recorded. If any member of the public would like to make an audio or video recording of this meeting, please notify me by raising your hand, either in person or remote, and I will notify the public per the Massachusetts public meeting laws. Do we have anyone who's making a recording today? If so, please state your name. Gilda, guys, great, thank you, Gilda. It is our first meeting of 2023, and we will begin with the land acknowledgement. Margaret.
Falmouth School Committee acknowledges that we are gathering on the unceded ancestral land of the Wampanoag Nation. We recognize and respect the Wampanoag people, including those of such, and that's it. Whatever. Sorry. The white quote, simple was it? Teaticket. I come from a bilingual family. I can't pronounce vowels. And Chappaqua, and original stewards of what is now known as the town of Falmouth, and honor their enduring relationship with this land. This acknowledgement is an intentional act to counter the erasure of Indigenous people and to demonstrate respect for their sovereign rights. We are committed to educate ourselves and our students about the long-standing history of the Wampanoag people. In alignment with the core values of the Falmouth Public Schools, we pledge to build an ongoing partnership with the Wampanoag Nation.
Great, thank you, Margaret. And Leah, mission and vision of Falmouth Public Schools.
The Falmouth Public Schools creates world-class student learning experiences. Our Clippers are empowered to pursue their goals with curiosity, integrity, and resiliency. Clippers are creative, inquisitive, and engaged learners who participate in their community as social, responsible citizens. Clippers effectively communicate and solve problems that impact the world around them.
Great, thank you, Leah. And Melissa, are you doing fishbowl?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So the gray one is from Genevieve at Falmouth High School. And Genevieve is a 10th grader. What is going well in your school / what do you like most in your school? What I like the most are the electives that the school has to offer, such as all the cooking and art classes. Very nice, thank you, Genevieve. And then, am I reading first? There's a white and a maroon too. Yes. Yes, sorry. This is from Alexis, who's also a 10th grader at Falmouth High School. What would make your school life better? Start school an hour later than normal. Alexis, heard. This is from, oh, I guess it's the same question, but that's all right because we have a different perspective. This is from Sophie, who's a 6th grader at Morse Pond. What is going well in your school / what do you like most of in your school? My teacher is awesome and in class, my favorite thing at school is the activities that we did in the classroom. Thank you, Sophie.
Great, thank you very much, students. Public comments. Members of the public are welcome to speak about items that are not on the agenda. Comments should be limited to 2 minutes in length. Due to the open meeting law, there will be no debate or action taken on public comment items. For items on the agenda, the chair may accept comments from the public following the committee's discussion of an item. Additional comments and feedback can also be submitted by email to schoolcommittee@falmouth.k12.ma.us. And do we have any public comments in person or remote? Okay. And seeing none. First would be student advisory, Anna Bennett, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I just have a couple quick updates for today. First off, is really exciting. Our girls hockey team is playing at Fenway Park Thursday night at 8 p.m. It's a late game, but it's a really great opportunity for them. A lot of good recognition for girls sports at our school is always nice, and they're super excited and trying to get as many students to go as they can, because this is such a big deal for them. And then another exciting thing this week, or new thing, is we've had a student-led initiative to decrease and eliminate the use of nicotine vape products at our school, which has become more and more of an issue. And we're combating that in a variety of ways. But this is almost like a new thing, because we have a student-led, we're having this week's student-led class meeting. So the seniors met today in auditorium during supper time, where their peers actually stood up and went over the issues that they're discussing and the new protocols that we're implementing, such as vape detectors in the bathrooms, as well as a stricter pass system for students and teachers to follow. That's all I have, but if anyone has any questions for me about anything I've said or anything else, I'm more than happy to answer.
Great, thank you, Anna. Any questions? Leah,
Just, so with those two initiatives, were they created by the students?
So it was a joint effort. There were two students, two seniors, Katie Shanahan and Harry, I'm not going to pronounce his last name correctly, but they approached Dr. Harris with, they're this is an issue in our school and we want to fix it. We want to, so it's student and staff working together, but they're promoting large student involvement and actually taking care of and approaching the issue.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Andrea.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think my question is probably for Lori about, I'm so glad that they're tackling this. And I guess it would be, I'm sure we'll be getting updates, going forward. And I'm wondering what we're gonna look at to see if these initiatives are actually successful, how, I know it's hard to wrap your brain around the problem in the first place, because otherwise it would have been tackled earlier. But so how do we know if the things we're adding in are working?
So one, we'll see a decrease in the number of referrals around nicotine use or vaping is the big. I think it's with what the students are actually doing, we'll have more anecdotal data from the students if they feel as though it has gone, because they're coming to us expressing that it's an issue. And I think that that's going to be the most powerful data that we will have, is how our students feel about it. And at some point, I did talk to Dr. Harris that I'd like some of the students that are leading, and it seems to be kind of growing with the number of students that are kind of getting that more, is that we may have a presentation here on their feelings about. So after we've seen them, so hopefully we'll get to hear right from the students.
Any other questions? Oh, Margaret.
How do you think it's going?
So far, I mean, I've definitely experienced the problem where for me, it's just I, have to wait 10 minutes, I have to be out of class for 10 minutes if I'm just trying to go use the bathroom, or there's been concerns too, I'm an athlete, and if you get caught in the bathroom with someone who's vaping, that could impact you, and it's just so I feel I'm optimistic about this, especially because there's more student involvement in this more than anything I've seen so far, and it's something that a lot of people are caring about, and the teachers are on top of it, and so it's new and we're still working on it, but I'm optimistic about it.
Thank the students for doing this.
Yes, absolutely. Any other questions? Kelly.
So I'm just wondering, so after the long break, were there a lot of kids did you notice a lot of kids absent or masked up after being, in big family gatherings and stuff? I'm just curious what it felt like.
Yeah, I think definitely more people were masked after break, just in general.
Also, like I do know a couple people that I know like did actually end up with COVID after the break, so it was like, that was the thing, like, I think the absences actually ended up, was a big thing, but right before the break, where like,
Okay.
attendance was a huge problem in like a few of my classes, so. Yeah,
Thanks. Just curious.
Great. Any other questions? Seeing none, it's always great to see you, Anna, so thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is an update from Wampanoag Tribe Education. Sorry.
Thank you. Ryan, could we promote Cameron in here, please?
Is, over.
Hello, Mr. Green Deer. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And
Thank
I'll
you.
turn it over to you. I think that everyone here has met you before, unless you want to do a brief introduction in case there's someone that may not. And then we would love to hear an update. About
Hello, everybody. My name is Cameron Greendeer, and I work at the Mashpee Wampanoag Education Department. I run the STEP grant, which is really mostly on capacity building and educating the educators. Thank you very much for having me. I'm from the Ho-Chunk Nation in Wisconsin, and I've been walking with Open Arms in your Falmouth community. Henry St. Julian has worked with me for the past couple of years on a few things, so I appreciate you, Henry. And I just want to give a few updates. I wanted to say thank you so much for allowing us to come on in for the performances we did back in, was that October, Henry? Was that October we did those? Yeah, so we did, I believe it was 8 performances. I can't believe you guys have so many schools, but we did those in a couple of days. And it was very, very welcoming. All the students that worked with me, all of my workers, they all enjoyed themselves. Henry and Carmela really made us feel at home, made everything pretty comfortable for us. We appreciate you. And we got a few thank you cards. So I want to say thank you to the elementary school. I can't remember which one it was, but thank you so much for that. We appreciate your kind of like your partnership and helping us out and getting our message across about Native issues and also history points too, as well, and celebration. Thank you so much. So going into an update with our Mashpee Wampanoag Education Department. Happy New Year, everybody. And we have certain events coming up. We have some spring college trips coming up. One of them is a big one, and that's going to be in April, I believe. And we haven't got a flyer yet ready, but we're going to be sending that out to Mashpee students and then also Falmouth students. We've been working with, we got to meet with Alan Kazarian and also Dr. Harris. So they've been great. Dr. Harris from Wisconsin, so we had a little more to talk about. So that was great. And so we're going to try to get these services out to our students. We do have another trip coming up to Washington, D.C. It's called Close Up USET. And we'll have a flyer out on our Mashpee Wampanoag Education Facebook page and also our Instagram. So please follow along if you guys can follow us on that. We always have updated events and opportunities on there. We also have a monthly speakers series. So every month we've been asking certain people to come in and talk about certain aspects. We just had one on Cranberry Day from one of Mashpee, from a Quina tribal member. And then also we had Linda Coombs do one on Thanksgiving. And then me and John also did one on higher education opportunities for our high school students. They've been pretty well attended. So if you guys can look into that, please follow us on Facebook and also Instagram. We have the ARP Air Grant. They have a lot of services for students. We have driver's ed assistance for the high school students. Also, another high school one is the independent visit, where they can get $500 reimbursed to families that want to do a college visit, an official college visit. So I would contact Talia Landry at the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe Education Department or Sassaman Whedon. If you guys go to our education page or our website even and look under the education tab, you can find all of our contact information. And we're setting up a lot of other professional developments. I've done various professional developments through the STEP grant. This is unfortunately the final year of the State Tribal Education Partnership STEP grant. So September 30th is the final for that. So we're going to try to go out with a bang with a nice professional development. Again, we haven't thought of a subject yet, but we certainly will, and we'll keep you guys in the loop. We also have ARP Air has, trying to think of everything. I'm so sorry. It's late. I'm sorry. And yeah, there's various opportunities to the ARP Air. We also do various advocacy work for students. We've been involved with in Mashpee, and also we do a history course at Mashpee. We do some language courses, which unfortunately is ending this year. But we've been trying to get involved with the curriculum building, and also to give some more Native American history, and specifically Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. So any other updates right now? I don't think I have any other updates for you, but please, if you guys follow us on the Facebook page, and also on our Instagram, or even on our education page. Oh, we also have a speakers bureau on our Mashpee Wampanoag education page. If anybody's looking for somebody with a certain subject, I would suggest seeking out our speakers bureau. Otherwise, you can contact me and we can go that route too. But speakers bureau has a list of a lot of educators from around the area that are available for certain subjects. Their bios will be listed and all that on there too. But thank you so much for this past year. I mean, I hope to do more this spring. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is he still here? Oh, yes, you are. Great. Questions for Cameron. Kelly?
Yeah, so you mentioned that the grant, one of the grants is gonna wrap up come September. And I'm wondering, you know, are there gonna be some of the programming that we've had in Falmouth, was it coming out of that grant? Like, should we be planning for needing to have other ways to have that type of, some of that programming in Falmouth? Because we certainly don't want to lose ground after making so much progress and having such great partnership.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, yeah, the STEP grant did fund the presentation part. And that was my position as well, as far as the grant manager part. So hopefully we can find another route. Obviously there's other grant opportunities out there. So I know my director, Roxanne Brown, she's actively looking for grants right now. So hopefully we can get something rolling for next year. Otherwise, the ARP Air grant is still here for funding. But I'm also in works with Carmela Majewski, talking about next year's funding for all this stuff. So I think I mentioned it with, maybe Henry wasn't there, but Carmela, I know I talked to about her, about this whole thing. So there's other options, and we're working on it.
Yeah, and if we need to work on it, I hope we'll be working on it too, because we certainly don't want to
Lose ground.
No, like the programming is incredible, and you know, the students love it, and we're so happy that this partnership has grown so much over the last few years, and we certainly don't want it to go away, because at least I don't want it to go away because of money.
Right, I
We should be able to figure it out.
Great. Any other questions or comments for Cameron?
I just want to repeat what I feel like I always say every time, that I wish that we had this when I was at the high school, because we had students from Mashpee. You know, I wish that I had the education early that I feel like I'm playing catch up on now, but I'm grateful that our kids have it. But I'm with Kelly that we want to make sure that this continues and that we don't lose any ground and strides that we've already made. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing that, Cameron, as always, wonderful to see you, and thank you so much for your update.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Next is a presentation on the FY '24 budget. Lori.
Thank you. So Alex and I tonight will give an update on the budget. So we gave a formal presentation in December, and I'm not going to do the formal presentation again for the fiscal year 24 budget. What I want to talk about tonight is about a story about the budget. So most people think when they think about budget, they think about the numbers. They think about the revenue, the expenditures, and the bottom line zero balance. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the values, because when we look at a budget plan tells people what we value. For instance, when we open up the budget book and it tells us what we're spending money on, it shows us that we have a director of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We have worked for years on our mission, our vision, our goals, and our values around diversity, equity, inclusion. And when people look at that, people know that that's what Falmouth Public Schools value. Our budget also shares a story about how we value the social emotional well-being of our students. And we see that by the increased number of school adjustment counselors. Our values, we commit ourselves to that every single student achieves, right? And it is our responsibility, if we're going to meet that, is that we have to break down every barrier for our students so that they can achieve at their highest. And so by valuing that, and during the pandemic, we know that our needs have increased. And we embraced those values and we responded to that. As the story continues to go, we have increased number of students, multilingual students in our schools. We are committed to that achievement of every student. And our budget shows the additional resources that we've committed in this area because this is what we value. We value every student. Our budget book, when people look at that, it says that we value our growing multicultural community. We embrace that. We also talk about the increased needs of our students that are related to increased free and reduced lunch population. We have, in this budget, been able to maintain our reading specialists, our math coaches, the supports that we need for our students. We value our students and what our students need. How else do we value show our value within the budget book is our community. We've been able to maintain the position of the learning partnerships specialist. We value those relationships that we have with our community partners. We know that our student learning is elevated based on the expertise and knowledge of our partners being out into our living classrooms in this very resource-rich community. And we bring that back into the classroom for our students. We value that. As a school committee, 3 years ago, you signed that partnership agreement. You yourself spoke to the community that you value this community and the resources within this community. You signed that partnership and we continue to grow that today. You also show the community how you value partnerships by writing the land acknowledgement, recognizing that we proudly stand on the ground of the Wampanoag tribe. We continue to look at our needs. The pandemic was a challenge. Needs grow. You can see that we have an increase of teaching assistants and one-to-one aides for our most vulnerable students. We don't know if these needs that we're speaking about are going to continue to rise, if they're going to level out. Are we going to get to anywhere near what our pre-pandemic levels were? We don't know that. This is very early in the budget season. When you're asked to build a budget for FY24 in November and December, it's very difficult to know what those needs are going to be. But when we build the budget, we are committed to you that we are going to have a physically sound budget and the needs of our students are going to be met first. That's what we can promise you. We will stay within that budget and student needs will always come first in our decision making. I presented several positions to you in December. that we would like to grow. Last night at one of the presentations, one of the parents said, so if you could have as whatever you wanted, what would that be, right? What would you want to see for this district? And, and I was surprised, like, what a great question, right? And then I thought for 2 seconds and I came back, it's not about me and what I want. I know that I'm passionate about many things, but it's about what's best for the district and it's about what we want as a community. It's about deciding together what those new positions might be and when they might. I can tell you now that in the FY24 budget, we cannot add every one of those budgets. But as we have every year presented a budget to you, we have always said that over the next couple of years, if we deem it to be important, we can make it happen. Maybe not next year, maybe 1 position next year, 2 positions, but next year, maybe we can have a position. By the 3rd year, we can usually make this happen. And so I encourage you as a school committee to have some robust discussions over the next couple of months to talk about where would your priorities be. The positions I brought forward were from the community. The community, and that's where that list comes from. It's not my list. It's not our administrator's list. This is the list from our staff, from listening sessions, from our families, listening sessions. And this is what our community wants. But we can't have it all at once. So we're going to have to talk about what the priorities are and the direction that you want to set for the district. So I encourage that. I thank you very much for listening to me. And now I'm actually going to turn it over to Alex, and he's going to actually give you the numbers and the bottom line of the budget. Alex?
Thank you, Laurie. Good evening, all. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
First of all, I'll just to acknowledge that our budget book is ready. And we're about to distribute it, and those who can be in the office, they should be able to get it once they come to the office. We have the budget book ready for FY24. Then this year, we are very fortunate to have about $56,175,788. And this money was approved, and that's what we'll be working on for FY24. For the FY24 budget represents an increase of 3.2% from FY23. Normally we do get 2.3%, but this year we got FY24, we have 3.2% increment. Then when it comes to FY24 budget 2, we had this increase with the town's decision to split an approved 1% increase on the short-term rental tax. That tax, what that 1% really help us, and resulting in that, we have about $500,000 funds to the school budget. And just to, end my thoughts, there will be a date, which is February 7th, and this February 7th is recommended for the school budget to do a vote or cast a vote on the budget that we have for the $56,175,788. So this is what I want to share, and hopefully we'll be back with more details if they need be. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I'm going to open the budget hearing, and that will enable us to then have a conversation about any questions that you may have. So I make a motion to open the public hearing of the 2023-2024 budget. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Melissa seconds, and it's a roll call vote because Terry is virtual. Terry?
Yes.
Bill Dorfman?
Yes.
Leah?
Yes.
Ian Thorne, yes.
Melissa Keith, yes. Welch, yes.
Margaret, yes.
And Natalie Tomatis also yes. So at this time, I will ask if anyone in the audience, virtually or in person, would like to make a public comment on the budget. And also that extends to school committee, if there are any questions related to the FY24 budget. Leah?
So the 3.2% increase, does that include the SOA money? Is that?
Yes, because the SOA money was actually included in this year's budget, and then that became the base.
Yeah.
And then the 3.2 includes the 500,000 that Alex spoke about from the short-term rental tax.
Potentially, there could be more SOA money for the following year, but we don't know about yet, if there's gonna be an additional increase.
I have not heard from at the state level that what we received in November is are added into our new base, and that will be included next year. I have not heard of any additional about that.
Yeah, because that was the promise, that it would
Yes.
maintain, but that it could increase.
It
So,
could, but
yeah.
yeah, we're not counting on that now, because there's been no talk.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's great, so.
Good question, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just two quick things. One, it's just so wonderful that we have such a great relationship with the town and that even with changes in staff on both sides, we have managed to like have a nice smooth budget process. So I'm always grateful for that. And then the other is just a comment about the books. I just want to make sure that the budget books are in the library again. We usually have a couple copies at the library branches so people can come and see all of it. And then also, I think at some point we had it online. Is it I don't know if it was the budget book or if it is after it's approved, we have something available.
I feel like it's
After,
I feel like
After
it
it's been
is.
approved.
after, okay, so we won't do that part. But at least, I just want to make sure that, I just want to make sure people can access it. So that they can see where all of their money is going, not all of it, but, because some people are very interested in the details.
Great, thank you.
Oh, Terry's going.
Yes, exactly. Terry.
So I was wondering, how have conversations about this changed from 2.3 to 3.2 gone over with the finance committee?
They are in support. I haven't officially met with them, so through our discussions with our representatives from the finance committee, they're definitely in support. We will be presenting to in February, we'll be presenting to the finance committee. I don't have the date off the top of my head. I'll be able to speak more to that after, but I know our representatives are in support.
So is there a loss that was, if it's more than 2.5 increase, it has to be approved somehow? Or
I'm
is
not
that outdated information on my part?
I'm not sure, Terry, you may be absolutely right, except not during my tenure. There have been years where they had increased for different reasons. I know one year was 2.8. There was no other special process of approval.
So the Terry, I think the 2.5 that you're thinking of is for the town overall.
Right.
For the increase in tax for the town overall, but because not a lot, but because a good chunk of our budget is also coming from the state, it doesn't get included in that part. And some departments go down and others go up. So I'm guessing that's what you're.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Andrea.
Lori, in your notes here, you had mentioned something about some of the presentations that have been done with schools and APOs. Other than what's on your wish list, has there been any other feedback that we should be aware of?
Yes, so I have specifically asked the questions because they're new positions. At every meeting, I've been asking questions about the safety monitors at each of the schools. And it's been overwhelming that they're helpful, they feel safer. We want to keep those in the budget. So that's been, and that was a specific question I was asking because they are new positions, just to be able to give you feedback on that. Everyone was kind of happy with everything. Last night, there were a little bit more suggestions around, one particular one was if we could add field trips, I'm sorry, I'm circling back, they want PTOs pay a lot of money for field trips at the schools. And is there any way that our budget could actually include some of the field trips to take some of that relief off of the PTOs? So that was, a request for consideration. There was also a request for us to hire a director of sustainability. Knowing that, and this was part of the conversation, we have the Woods Hole partnership, we value that, is that a position? I do know that the town approved a position, and I think that they're looking to fill that. And my suggestion would be to start to try to partner with that position and kind of be included in some way and yeah, so we'll work. I think that was a great suggestion, and I'm gonna go that direction first and mention that last night. The other question or suggestion last night was looking at the transportation. I will say that it's when the superintendents have been meeting, the transportation issue is widespread, and there's really not any indication at all that we're gonna have any relief on finding bus drivers. It is, pretty much a crisis everywhere. So I know that is important to our families, and that to be able to look at whether we can once again separate Morse Pond from Lawrence. But at this point, there's just no outlook, and that really doesn't have anything to our budget, because our budget with transportation is set. But that it's really kind of a different kind of issue of looking for staffing. And I believe, I'm not putting you on the spot, Margaret, that you were there, and I appreciate that you were there last night. Did I pretty much cover everything I think that was brought up last night? Okay, and so the others were really, other than the safety positions they really want, were just kind of listening and kind of asking clarifying questions, but not more suggestions.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the field trip thing, because I do think that definitely becomes a burden, especially with transportation costs and things. And this is just kind of a random question about this, but do PTOs have the ability to apply for FEF grants?
Thanks, Sarah.
I feel it. So when I was the president, among other roles at East, we always had to have a sponsor from the school. So whether it was the principal or a teacher looking for a mini grant, but as a PTO, we were not able to apply for an FEF grant.
Okay.
But, that was pre-COVID.
I'm just thinking that FEF funds a lot of unique field trip opportunities, and
Yeah.
to have a way that potentially, parents who would like to be involved could help with that would be great, because that's part of the burden is filling out, doing the grant.
Yes.
So that is totally a side note of our budget, but I think.
The process.
Yeah, because field trips they're hard because they do kind of fluctuate as to what your curriculum is and what you need. So budgeting for that within a budget is harder. But if we look at, supplementing with these amazing grant opportunities that we have locally, that might be a way to support that.
I can definitely think that Sonya's nodding her head that she can kind of engage in that conversation with FEF and see if there's a way
There's
of
probably some great grant writers in the parents.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
Great, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, and let me just double check with our attendees virtually, seeing none. I make a motion to close the budget hearing of the 2023-2024 budget. Is there a second?
Second.
And roll call again to close the hearing, Terry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Yes. Let's keep yes.
Welch, yes.
Yes.
And now we can also yes. So thank you all. Next is to act on job descriptions, and as you recall, during our last meeting in December, we reviewed the job descriptions for the digital literacy and computer science department head, the director of policy and legal affairs, and school safety monitors. Would you like to introduce this discussion?
I would, if I could say a few words about this. So when we talk about making decisions and valuing our decisions in our budget, I do believe we've heard from the community, and the school safety monitors is something that is valued. And so I would like to ask you to consider that. I'd also ask to consider the Director of Policy and Legal Affairs. And when I talk about what we value, I know that it's what I hear from our committee is it's also very important that we are addressing our policies, making sure that we're following our policies, that we value being in compliance. And I can tell you, and I think my entire team can tell you, that having someone on staff in this role is just extremely valuable in having the resource immediately and having someone, but the depth that can be provided for our principals and our staff is just so great that there is not an outside firm that can provide us with the resources to that degree. So I want to recommend that position. I also want to say that doing some research, that this is a growing position across many districts in the state. There are districts like Boston and Cambridge, Ludlow, Northborough, Southborough, Somerville, and these are just off the top of my head, that have these positions. And I do believe as things become more complicated over time and knowing the value of having someone on staff, that this is being recognized. And so I do ask you that we be able to keep this position. I do think that financially, the amount of money that we spend on the outside firm definitely will be less, and the value that we have of having someone on staff is extremely valuable. And then third, on the, as I mentioned before, we're not going to be able to have every position in place, but we did have a director of digital literacy and librarian at one time. And when that person retired, you know, there were other needs at the time that we reallocated the funds to. And now, you know, we know the value. And I think the piece that that we weren't able to address then, that is so important right now, is our computer science standards that we really need to look at and need someone to kind of lead us with that process. So I don't know, like the positions or when we can, you know, as I said before, but I would like to be able to have those opportunities by approving these job descriptions and having them on the books, so that when we can figure out when that is, that we will be able to move forward with them. So I just thank you for listening.
Thank you. And at the last meeting, you requested edits to the job description. Were there any edits?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. Yes, thank you very much. So I did get one request for edit on the,
Yes.
So on the Director of Policy and Legal Affairs, we did put in experience in leadership administrative role in the public school district. I think we are extremely unique that we had someone that has a law degree that also was an administrator in our district. What we changed was just adding the word preferred, because I'm not sure, you know, whether this position 5 years or 10 years, or that we might, you know, be able to find someone that actually has a law degree and was an administrator in the district level. So we put preferred, knowing that we're probably unique in that area.
Thank you. So we are going to take each job description individually. Go ahead.
I did want to correct something that I said before.
Sure.
That was incorrect, and after the meeting, I did get a phone call that explained to me, and I was like, they're absolutely right, and so I stand corrected. And that was, the question came to me, is do we have to post an interview and rehire a position if the person is still already currently in? And the answer to that is no. So I did say, yes, we would have to do that, but in fact, we don't, because if it's non-union, it can be, it doesn't actually have to go through that process. It could be appointed position in that. So I felt like I just needed to clarify that. And that does happen in non-union positions, that they can be appointed positions and not hired. So I just wanted to make sure the school committee is aware of it.
Okay, so let's begin with the job description for the digital literacy and computer science / library department head, K through 12. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And is there a second? Okay, Andrea, questions and comments related to that job position?
I just have, I think, because the job descriptions weren't included in our packet, it was hard, I don't have them with me, but I think that it says that they're 20, it's 22, 23. Does it?
Yes, it says
Okay.
2022, 2023.
So I just think that we need to edit those aspects of the job description. Particularly now that I think we heard from Lori that these positions aren't built into the budget yet so that this would be a next year position.
That's correct. Thank you. You did make that recommendation and I missed it.
Okay,
Sure. Is there a reason there's a year? Can we just strike the year? Like, if their positions,
take
they're
it
not
up,
year,
I don't know, we're gonna fill it.
Right, we don't need a date on the job description.
You should have it.
Oh, okay.
Because it signals to people that it's an open position for starting after July 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
People in the industry, in education, that's what we look for.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for that, the edit. Any other questions or comments related to this position?
Yeah, one of the, just that, to point out that there is a change for this position in the aspects that the last position did not have teaching responsibilities, so there wasn't a direct impact with students. This position does have that. So this makes it a little bit more of a versatile position where based on the needs, I think you have some flexibility. Lori, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Leah. And Terry, I apologize, Terry, virtual.
Okay, it seems to me that we're adding 3 new positions this year. We added a new administrative position last year, and this would be adding 2 new administrative positions this year. I think what I know when Lori first talked about it, it was to cover those classes. But we have other computer learning things for students that we didn't have a long time ago when this kind of position was around. So I just think maybe we should hold off another year on this position and see what would happen if we did get a library, a person for the library at the Lawrence School. I looked at the other classes they have there, and they do have computer science classes for kids. So it's not as if they're not getting that at Lawrence School right now. I just think maybe we could wait to add another administrative position until next year. That's just my thoughts on that.
Great, thank you, Terry. Yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
So to follow up to Tara's question, does anything preclude us from, because we already have a library position for Lawrence, like that exists, we just don't have anyone in it. Does anything preclude us from advertising for both and then hiring for one of them, or because we already have the library position, could we actually just advertise for both positions next year and see if we get anyone?
So we have somebody.
Yeah, we have a part-time.
We have a part-time.
It's part-time, so full-time.
It's part-time, it's been advertised as part-time for the last couple of years. What we have is someone that's in managing the library, so checking in, checking out books, kind of being available for students, but we don't have a certified librarian in the position. We've been unable to fill that. It's still posted, but we just been unable.
Yeah. Right, I think for this position, our librarians play such an important role in teaching our students and supporting the teachers. And to not have a director in that position, I think that impacts not only the teachers, but also our students. And I know that they're working on lots of really important things this year with policies and their library holdings and incorporating that into classrooms. And so I think this position would be really valuable to bring that all together for all of our schools. So I do hear you about, how to sort of proceed, but I think there's great value in this position. And additionally, this person could also teach a few sessions at the school or sections.
I just have a question about that, because this position would actually be replacing that position, is that right? Because it would be the halftime teaching position that we've advertised So it would, so the increase in the budget would only be for that additional half of the admin position, is that right? So if we advertise both of them, we wouldn't have the fund, if
We
we
wouldn't
have
have,
the fund.
we wouldn't fill, you wouldn't have to fill both, I think. is the point.
That was my point,
Yeah.
is that I know it's a really hard position to fill. And so more options, I think, is good. I completely agree with you that I would prefer to fill it this way. But just because we know it's such a hard thing to fill, I like that we might have another option. If we can't fill someone in this way, we could go back to trying the halftime library until we can get somebody in there. But yeah, that's a good point that I hadn't thought of, that it's really not a full position anymore. It's a half position.
It's a half position.
But one's unit A and one's unit B.
Correct.
So it's a little bit more than.
Right.
A little bit
Just
more,
wanna-
yeah,
Because it's not a full, I mean, it's not that we're budgeting for a full unit B
Yes,
position, we're budgeting for just, I mean, because we already have that
Yes,
half
yes.
unit A position, yeah.
Yes, thank you. And so, Laura, just to, because now I'm a little bit unclear after Terry's comments about teaching. So the types of teaching this position would entail, how is that different than what's already happening? Or what is that, what are we gonna gain from?
So the two sections that this person would be teaching would actually be as a certified librarian at the Lawrence School. Right, but I think Terry was speaking that we have positions in the computer science courses, which we do. We have teachers currently in this. But I don't know, Sonia, can you speak a little bit more around just aligning those standards across the grades and what this person can help in doing that?
Sure. So at Lawrence School, there's a dedicated DLCS, digital literacy and computer science teacher for 7th grade and one for 8th grade. It's similar to the configuration they have for engineering. And they're dedicated to the grade level in order to see every student and provide them that opportunity. So we wouldn't want to interrupt that. They've made significant effort in changing some of their units to address the standards. Part of what we're looking for in this role is, one, to make sure that we're keeping the Lawrence School Library operational and giving students the opportunity not just to go in and access and check out books, but to go through the exposure to selecting books and identifying companion books similar to what they have currently at Morse and what they have at the high school and through line. I think the other piece of it is the supervision, leadership and support, which I think you were addressing as well with some of the procedures that they're looking to complete. I know that they met with Henry today and pulling in their equity vision and developing their collection. Without a certified library teacher on site at Lawrence School, it's affecting how quickly they're able to weed and add to their collection. And the other library teachers are doing that pretty strong rate right now. And we don't want that missed opportunity at Lawrence School as our students go through that period of their identity development in curiosity, and they're seeking titles that we may not have. Compliment to, of course, our English and our social studies teachers, as they're building out units and they're looking for specific, both fiction and nonfiction representations of the work that they're doing. And they've both seen changes in their units since we had a library teacher at Lawrence School, so that affects the currency of the collection too.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, it's your hand.
Clarify the technology grid, which is a bad mistake. Could you clarify the aspects of the technology, since I'm sorry, I was aware that fully met the job description.
I'm gonna defer to Sonia again, if you don't mind, just speaking to, so the digital literacy piece, K to 12, the computer science pieces, K to 12, like what that looks like.
And that's a bit separate from the work of the tech for learning. Okay. So, so in the tech for learning, one of the things we're looking at is the use of the digital tools across every classroom and what's consistent, right, as a tool for learning. Whereas the DLCS, they have specific standards, right, so they have their own content piece. And part of what we're doing is trying to grow from really emphasizing a lot of the digital literacy early and how we work with apps, decisions that we make, how we know information is credible,
then moving into the coding, and the coding starts to give way to some of the shifts in more challenging mathematics and opens up other opportunities as students continue forward. So there's kind of the duality there.
Thank you.
Is that, okay?
Yeah, so you had mentioned, Sonia, about the engineering teachers, and I'm just wondering, for them, do they have a coordinator that helps them with their, because looking at this position, is there something aligned for those engineering teachers? Where they have someone who can support them in their development of the curriculum?
At Lawrence School, and the way that the standards, their STE, right, science, technology, and engineering, they meet within the science department, they meet with prescribers
Okay,
as their department.
and this does not fit under that,
No, these standards are completely,
and it doesn't fit under any other, it wouldn't be under ELA for literacy. It has its own standards. I think that just, clarifies it a little bit.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Okay, checking Terry, seeing none, it will be a roll call vote.
Oh, can I just say one thing, just because it was something that came up in the budget subcommittee meeting. So when we approve a job description, that does not mean that we're approving it to go into the budget. So it just, like, for everyone to be like really cognizant of that we're just saying that we approve that this job description could exist in our school system.
Correct.
That it seems like a good fit for our school system. We're not aligning it to any monies right now.
Correct, and as Lori mentioned earlier, that as the money is available, then we would fill that position. Absolutely, but thank you for that.
Yeah, and thank you, because she talked about it, then you forgot to mention it.
So my question is for further clarification. Once we approve a job description, does it have to come back to us again in order for that position to be filled?
no.
I have a question. How will we know? Could we be enlightened if there was someone to apply and meet all the marks and we hired them, I guess?
I think, and that's, yeah, I actually am in line with you next. I think moving forward, one of the things I want to do, we haven't added a lot of new positions, right? If you think back on the learning partnership specialist, when we had that, you approved that. It was a couple of years before we could fill that. But then, since that was a new position, we certainly came back to the school committee and we talked about that. I want to make sure that we do that on every position. So when we, when management can figure out that can be a part, then I think that, yes, we come back and we make sure that the school committee is well aware of that we've worked this into the budget. But I would say that there are several of our, kind of priority positions that as I had said during the presentation, I really encourage and I would like to hear from the school committee, like a discussion about, if we could only put one position in, like, right, what direction? Just as a discussion. Yes, I understand that it's a management decision on, making the best decisions around that, but we are setting direction. And so I really do encourage it. But yes, I will be, a long answer to your yes, I will come back to the school committee.
Yes, I think it would be good for us to just know.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Margaret.
That was my exact point. If we're gonna recommend, if we decide we'll approve the 3 positions, how will they be prioritized? If we only have money for one?
So wouldn't it, if we approve all 3 positions and say a week from now, 3, well, we have 2, but like everything came to be, would we then have a conversation around which is the priority, like how would we move forward with that? What does that look like?
So, normally that would be administration and really kind of working, like, the different positions, like, right now, so, and I must say, I actually value this position, I would have brought it, back, or, I believe that we should have it. Right now, we have a coordinator stipend position that's helping with the library teachers, which does cover some of the digital literacy, but certainly does not cover all of the standards and But we, so I guess it's like trying to make those decisions when we can make decisions. There's like a lot of different things that play into all of this.
I just want to be clear that, you want us to have a robust conversation, but then it's an administrative conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, how do we?
So
How do
I
we
think we have a
try
lot
and-
of time, because it's not until July.
Yeah, I'm just.
I think it's
So let me ask
overall.
this, so, thank you.
No, yeah,
Come back to it.
No, you're fine. I hear you. I think overall, Melissa's speaking not necessarily to this,
Yeah.
like the next steps, but overall, what does this look like in terms of the positions and the when and the how and how are we prioritizing that? So I hear you.
So this position may be a little easier because of what Kelly and Leah were talking about, that if they're gonna teach some courses, right? We're not talking about another full position,
Right.
putting someone in, right? But if it's the director of CTE, that is a full position. They would not have the teaching responsibilities in that. So if you look at that, if you look at the family liaison, the Portuguese interpreter, right? Like having those discussions around those positions would be very helpful to know, right? So, do we value, I'm sure we value all of those, but do we value growing those positions where students have more opportunities to stay here, right? Slightly, maybe more before we add a family liaison, right? Or is a family liaison, right? Being more, like, because they're all valuable, and it's hard to make those decisions, right? But those are the kind of decisions. I think that this position's a little bit differently because it's not like another full-time position. So out of those new positions, that's kind of what I was talking about. Sure, was that helpful? Yeah. Yes.
And I hope I'm not misinterpreting Margaret's question. If all three positions were approved tonight, all three job descriptions were approved tonight, but the budget committee comes along and only approves the funding for one of them, what would you put as the highest priority of the three? Is that we're going?
Well, either we don't do it, or when we have a conversation about it, I think that's my question.
I think that's what I heard you say. is
Yeah,
that
we
like
have a
us
conversation
to have a
about it.
conversation outside that.
And I think, in full candor, I think that the tricky piece is that two of these job descriptions have people in them already, right? And so we would have to then have a larger conversation about the priorities for those positions as a whole, and what does that look like as well?
Yes, Andrea, just add a little something else to that, I appreciate that you have brought that idea about to have this larger conversation and to include us, because you're very collaborative that way and always have been. But at the same time, I think we should all be clear about our roles and not overstepping that it is, we're approving this here tonight with the possibility that we wouldn't have a further discussion. Obviously, that's what Lori wants and that's what she does, but we should be really clear on those boundaries just for going forward in the future for anything like that.
Well, and I think that's kind of where I was making that point, maybe in a different direction, but, it is great to have a 3-ring binder this thick full of job descriptions available. But that also is outside of our purview as to which ones are drawn from that 3-ring binder. So once we put it in, it's in there, correct?
Right, yes.
That's what I want to make sure we also understand.
Yeah, we put the trust in you to make those decisions because you are the expert on those things. But I think that's exactly what your point was before, that when we're approving these jobs, we're giving you the ability to bring them in when you feel that it is the right thing for the school system.
Thank you. I think that's well said, right? I mean, I think that you're sending the message that you value the positions, whether it's this year, next year, or the following year. At some point, you'd like to see the positions, right? And it's up to us to figure out when, and maybe that's kind of the discussion.
Margaret, was your hand?
Well, I think also we have it in the minutes, that we're talking about not necessarily controlling what you do, but having a discussion with you before those positions are filled.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, okay, so we have a motion and a second related to the digital literacy and computer science / library director, library department head, K through 12.
With that,
What is that?
with that.
With the edit, yes, thank you. With the edit, so it's a roll call vote. Terry?
Well, I am going to vote no because I would rather see us put more energy into getting someone at Lawrence School in the library all day long, not a part-time thing. And I also think we approved the new DEIB position and new administration, and we're being asked to approve another new administrative one. So those are my reasons. I'm voting no.
Bill?
Yes.
Alia, so I hear Terry in what she's saying, and I think, you know, it is looking at the, there's additional admin positions being looked at right now. I do trust that Lori's gonna look at these positions as to what is really the best for our community. And, you know, I would say that we don't have this position filled right now, so it doesn't feel like, it's hard to justify that this is a needed position. But I am gonna vote yes, because I think that as a school system, we've decided that this is a position that we need to bring back. It's an important one. So I'm voting yes on that, but with the caveat that I understand Terry's concern around it.
Absolutely. Andrea?
Yes.
Melissa?
So I hear also what Terry's saying. But I also think that, I personally like options. I like to know that if the right person came along and said, and showed us that they had all the boxes checked that we need, I would hate for a job description to be a hiccup in the process moving, you know, helping our students ultimately. So I'm gonna vote yes, because I like options, and I trust Lori.
And Kelly votes yes. Margaret?
Yes.
And Natalie Kellogg was also a yes. So that passes. The next job description that we are going to take a look at is the school monitor / safety monitor job description. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Bill and Melissa, you can second. Okay, so again, to Lori, any edits from the last time? That's great, thank you. Any questions or comments related to the school monitor job description?
So this one is for 22-23. Is that right? Because we have people in this position right now? Okay.
Is that,
Yes,
Okay.
it is correct. They are in the positions as of now, so
23-24.
It's
for that.
because they're in the positions now.
Yes.
So
Okay, so we're approving a job description that we didn't approve for this year. Is that, okay,
So let's say 22, 23, or 23,
23, 24.
but that's because it's gonna move to a different place in the budget, right? Because why we're approving it now.
No, it's
So-
just that we go through the process.
Well, yes, because of past practice, if they were in grants, they were not approved through the school committee. Knowing that the recommendation from MASC now is that all positions go through, as I said last time, we will move forward with that recommendation, with that guidance. But that's why some of the positions were in grant, because this year they're in a grant position. Alex, can I just clarify, were we moving the safety monitors this year to the local budget? Or are they slated for next year? And honestly, I just can't remember, and I don't know if you can look at that real quick, because if we have to have a date, or we could just put 22, 23, so that we have the option of moving them into local this year.
Yeah. Looks like it's in the local budget now.
Well, we haven't moved them in yet, no. but the plan is, so the plan is that they were gonna be moved in this year.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so then.
we should have it this year. It should be the
Say
22-23.
23.
Yeah.
So there's.
But I think maybe we should vote two
I feel like
times,
that's sticky.
that we should vote for next year too.
This is where I'm not sure why the job description, just because if you think about it, I go back to the learning partnership specialist, which I can defer back to. Like you voted for that job description. I don't know if there was a year on it. It was 2 years later. We didn't come back and have you vote on the date of the position. You were voting on the job description itself, not in the date in which they're gonna be hired in.
Right.
I
said, because this is an HR matter, you know, candidly, I think we should defer to the director of human resources on what date should appear on this job description. I mean, I think that's why we.
Well, I wasn't part of the conversation regarding approving any monies being transferred in or out. So the they are in a position now with a job description attached to it. Moving forward, essentially, they would either stay in that position. So it's up to you if you want to approve it for 22-23 or 23-24, if it's not connected to a financial change. If there's gonna be some kind of transfer, then I would say, make it 22-23. If it's just me bookkeeping, any audit.
That's correct.
Okay, and since this is going to be a new
This year.
line item, so it should be 23-24 on the job description.
22, 23,
23.
correct. Because we are looking to change, the plan was to change them into the local this year.
Okay. It's very.
That's why it was sticky.
Yeah, that's very.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes,
Yes,
right, that is just, so, because now I'm getting confused, because we're approving the creation of the position, which doesn't seem like it has a date attached to it, but then I understand that a posting has to have a date attached to it.
Yeah, and that was my stuck spot.
Are there differences?
It is.
Because every position we have, do we update that every year? Does everyone get a new
No.
date on it?
So, no, and sometimes a position gets updated when the opportunity comes up. The position is vacant and we update it. For this particular position, we do have people in the positions. It's non-union and the superintendent has the ability to reappoint them again. So we won't necessarily need to post all of them or any of them.
And are these, the existing school monitors, are they on a one-year contract or they're just the 1 year? Are they on a contract?
Year to year.
Year to year, okay.
Yes, year to year, they would have to receive a letter late spring, reassigning them to their position.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a comment about that? Just, I think that there's a lot of things that make me uneasy about this, because we have people in positions that we haven't approved yet, or approved the job description. So just, I guess I'm looking to Giovanni for this around just kind of human resource piece. If we said that we would feel more comfortable because we're approving this job description to make this a public post, is that something that's our purview to do? Like, of saying, because we didn't approve the job description for how it is, we would feel that it would be more, I'm just saying to me, but hypothetically, that we said it would be more, we feel like it would be more transparent to put it out for the following school year, and that everyone would need to reapply for it.
In this particular instance, I would say no, simply because nothing's changed in the job description, and when it was first posted, there was nothing standing in anyone's way to apply for it. And so the only thing that is changing is that it's getting voted on now, but I don't recall there being a change to any of the requirements or
So the job description is the same, Joanne is correct on that. I still hesitate that we're getting hung up on the date and not the job description that you're, but if it is tied to the local budget and we plan on moving these positions into the local budget this year, then I feel like you have to, and as Giovanni pointed out, they're non-union. They can be appointed positions. We don't have to post it once you approve the job description. We don't have to repost and hire them.
Maybe if I said it, if it's in a grant now, and it's going to change now in this fiscal year, out of a grant into the budget, then it should have an approved job description from the school committee. And so the fact that it says 22, 23, it can just stay that way, since that seems to be the plan. But if it wasn't, then that's perhaps a different conversation. But the people who are in the position are in the positions, they get reappointed every year. And it was an open process. It was posted and there was an equal opportunity for people to apply for it.
Margaret. So the job descriptions were approved last year. Or previously, right? No jobs, the school committee never approved job descriptions before, okay.
We approved the job description for the director of safety or security. And then he enrolled with it and found the security monitors. We didn't approve the security monitor position. We approved the director's position.
Any other questions or comments? Just checking to see if Terry, she scratched her head, she's raising her hand.
Did we get the answer that's going into local budget? So,
The plan is to do that this year.
so it would be
Maybe
22,
23. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no further questions, it will be a roll call vote to approve the job description for the school monitor, safety monitor position. Terry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Leah? Yes. Andrew? Yes. Melissa?
Let's keep yes, Welch, yes.
Yes.
And Ally Cantalopoulos also yes. And then the last job description, which has an edit, will be the Director of Policy and Legal Affairs. And it will be the motion to approve it with the edit of preferred. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
And there's also the 23, 24 for this one.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about,
Oh, okay.
we're just gonna open up the conversation. So motion by Melissa, is there a second? Okay, Andrea, and now questions and comments about this job description.
Well, just, there was that edit for the 23, 24.
Right, exactly. And any other,
And the edit with the preferred.
and the preferred, yeah, that's what I mentioned, that edit there.
Yeah. Well, I just think that this is a tricky one, again, because we have someone in the position, and I feel very badly that we're discussing it with the person here. Because it has nothing to do with who you are.
Yes, we're
It's just-
discussing the description, not the
Yeah,
person.
it's the process, and that this is a really big position for our district. It is, you know, as we have the description here, the salary is a high salary. It's, so I feel remiss by not saying that, again, this process was very, very difficult as far as looking at, you know, that this money was put out to a position, we haven't approved it, and I understand that there was a misunderstanding around the grant piece, but anything that has to do with money with our district should always come to the school committee, because that's our purview. So I think I said what I need to say.
Margaret?
That being said, if we have someone on staff who has a good salary, it would seem like it was gonna save money, that we don't have to hire an outside lawyer when issues come up. So in fact, physically, it may be very responsible to do this.
Kelly, aside from the money, so I think that, no, I agree with you, but, taking a step aside from just the actual cost, I would be thrilled to move to a model that has somebody who has our sole focus. Because, you know, so I've been chair a couple of years, and you deal a lot with the lawyers when you're chair. And I've been on negotiations for a lot of years, and you deal a lot with the lawyers when you're on negotiations. And we have never, I shouldn't say that, but I don't feel as though someone outside, regardless of how good they are, can represent our best interests the way that somebody who is only ours can do. And to move to a model that includes
you know, having someone outside for really difficult things or things that you really want another face on, but having somebody whose day-to-day responsibility is just us would be such a better model than what I think at least I have encountered over whatever years. So conceptually, I love this. People aside, money aside, but conceptually, I just think it's a better model.
Melissa. So I have been on policy 8 years. And I'm going to, where Kelly spoke highly of the legal side of it, I'm going to speak very highly on the policy side of it. Having somebody in that role that you can get answers in real time, Andrea's shaking her head, yes, I'm sure Terry is as well, that whereas before we would, we'd have our policy meetings and we would think that we'd be trucking along and doing well, and then we'd get stuck, and then we'd wait for Sonia or the superintendent or whoever was usually one of those two people would call our attorney or call MASC, and then we'd have to table that subject matter, whatever we're working on, and then try to move on and do the next thing. And it got kind of sticky, because then, you know, you lose your momentum on that thing that you have to wait on. And then you come back a month later or a couple of weeks, whenever your next policy meeting is, and you have to reorient yourself with that thing. And you're, oh, right, what was the question? Oh, well, this is what I got back. And Sonia does take amazing notes, and she always had our back as far as reminding us and keeping the minutes accurate. But to have somebody in real time be able to say X, Y, and Z, or who may have done the the homework leading up to it that perhaps the policy subcommittee members didn't think about, but legal saw coming down the pike and said, hey, listen, just so you know, this looks really easy, like 1 + 1 is 2, but actually there's a whole lot more into it. And I just want you to have a complete, and I want you to have all the pieces before you try to put this puzzle together. So I would absolutely advocate for this position, just on the policy portion of it, and to have the bonus of hearing your endorsement from the negotiations. And you bring up a really good point, Kelly, with having somebody that has our back every day and has our soul. Yes, I 100% want to advocate for this.
Thank you. Terry.
Well, besides the money savings, I'm gonna piggyback on somebody who was talking about the connection with the staff. And I think Lori told about certain group instructions that Mary did with administrators about things that the legal sides of things they were doing, that if it's partly the money, would have cost a lot more for an attorney to do those sessions and everything. Plus, she's right in tune of what our automatic needs are in a connection with people. So it's saving the money and that personal connection that make the job worthwhile. Thank you.
Andrew.
Thank you.
I was nodding so much with Melissa because I felt the exact same way. And I think we all know that, the number of regulations are only increasing. And the confidence that I have that we're actually in compliance with so many areas has gone up dramatically just by having this position. And, policy changes all the time. We might get an update that you maybe see or miss from MASC or, from the Department of Education. And, we did that 10-year review of our manual, and there was a lot of stuff that had to be changed, and we had to do all that. It's really easy to get pretty far out of whack, over time. But if you have somebody who is focusing on that, and already we've had meetings where things have come to our attention that I just feel like we're up on now. And having admin positions aren't always just that. Having them just for the sake of adding them on without real concrete value, but I would be opposed to, but something like this, I'm definitely in favor.
Well, and I echo all of you because as someone who serves on negotiations, I see the value of having this position in real time. I would be remiss to not also support Leah's statements and that it's not the position, it's the procedure and how this sort of came to be. And I think we have learned, lesson learned that all positions do need to come to school committee before being filled. But that does not speak to the person and the role. I absolutely appreciate having this on site. So.
Yeah, and I know this one comes as a shock to anybody, but I'm gonna have a little bit of a different take on this. I absolutely do see the value fiscally. If we're spending this kind of money on outside attorneys, of having somebody in-house that would make fiscal sense. I can totally appreciate that. And I can appreciate having someone who understands our district on a regular basis, going into negotiations, dealing with grievances, looking at our policies. I understand and I appreciate that. Where I'm struggling is that I'm hearing two completely different things when it comes to certain topics and certain job descriptions. We had an excellent presentation earlier on budget and our values and what we value as a district. We value diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We have a fantastic director for that, looking out for our students. Value social and emotional well-being. You mentioned adjustment counselors that fall underneath that category. You mentioned an increase of teachers' assistants and how it's very difficult to know what these needs are going to be. And I wrote this down verbatim. Students' needs will always come first. And I appreciate any position we want to add where students are going to benefit, especially if it's directly, such as the position we just approved at Lawrence and with the digital learning and so forth. You mentioned that this is a growing position across the state, Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, I believe you also mentioned. There is another position that is growing across the state. It has been around for years and has been around this country for years, and that is a full-time director of safety and security in our school districts. And I pushed for that. We have a part-time director of safety and security. And I don't feel like we should have a part-time director of safety and security who is protecting our students, but to put a full-time position in to protect our assets. I just feel that's wrong, especially after we just heard that students will always come first. So that's where I'm struggling with this position. I understand the fiscal part. I understand how good it can be in negotiations. And I understand having someone inside who understands them. But what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing happen, just to me, I'm having a whole conflict here.
Thank you. Yeah, and this is not to be defensive, because I value both positions that you just mentioned a lot, but I do believe this position is directly in support of our students, because dealing with so many things as far as discipline issues with our students, the special education things that come up with our students, like we're getting real-time in-house guidance and support and actual direct decisions making that's based on the law, that's in the best interest of our students. I just needed to say that, because I think every single position that we're considering always has the end result of the student's best interest in mind.
And I hear that, and I understand, I see in here, students' rights and discipline, child abuse reporting requirements, bullying prevention,
Title IX.
which I'm sorry, but I think the bullying prevention may fall a little bit under here. I think it's actually in your document. But
Not the legal side.
I understood. But bullying prevention and intervention. But there's a lot of other stuff in here too. Serve as a liaison and resource for school administrators, assist school district staff, participate in collective bargaining negotiations with the FEA, lead collective bargaining negotiations, assist the principal, central administrator, contract interpretation, union grievances. That has nothing to do with students. And that's where I'm struggling, just to counter that. I do see some things in here where we benefit students, but I see a lot of other stuff where students just don't.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, checking with Terry, we're good. Okay, seeing none, there is a motion on the table to approve the job description for the Director of Policy and Legal Affairs with 2 edits. The first related to the school year being 2023-2024, and the addition of the word preferred on the last line of qualifications at school district. So, Terry.
Yes.
Bill.
No.
Yeah. So I am voting yes because I think this is a very important position for our school district. But like I said, the process and the lack of transparency around it being already implemented in our school system just makes it, not that it's about the position, so I'm just voting yes.
Ingersoll, yes. Muskeg, yes. Welch, yes.
Yes.
And Natalie Kamopoulos, also a yes. Next on our agenda, act on $1,000 anonymous donation to Morse Pond School. Lori.
So this was a direct donation to purchase items for students in need. And if they wanted to remain anonymous, but it was $1,000 in whatever way that may, whether it's clothing, other needed items in the home. But it was to support students. It was a $1,000 donation, and it was specifically for Morse Pond.
Well, thank you very much to the anonymous donor. That was very thoughtful and very much needed. So is there a motion to approve this donation?
I'd like to make that motion.
And a second?
Cool, I'll second.
Okay, fine.
Say something.
I know. Okay, and roll call. Oh, sorry, good question. I want to answer it.
I think that is a very generous donation and for such a good need. I just was wondering, how will that be managed and those needs determined and prioritized and met? Who oversees that?
The counselors,
The counselors.
because they're the first line to knowing what the student needs are.
Right. Thank you for the reminder of questions. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Terry.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Yes. Ingersoll, yes.
Let's keep yes.
Well, Jess. And Natalie Kamopoulos, also yes. So again, thank you so much to our anonymous donor. Next is an update on school committee goals 2022-2023. I just wanted to briefly touch base with the leads on our goals, just for public information. Our goal number 1 was to develop and implement a multi-year communication strategy. Goal number 2 is to advance efforts to address equity, inclusion, diversity, belonging, and systemic racism in Falmouth Public Schools. And goal 3 is to participate in efforts to address school safety and security. So goal 1 leads are Terry, Kelly, and Melissa. Do you have anything you'd just like to?
Yeah, I'm
update
frantically
us on?
trying to.
Oh, no worries.
It's
See,
totally,
my-
I didn't staple.
Yeah.
Send that down, it's a packet, so
Okay.
take all 4. So one of the things that we kind of focused on for the start of the year was the video postings on Facebook following our meetings that just give a quick synopsis. So what we did, we posted 4 times, and what you see here are the analytics from Facebook for those 4 postings. Because what we wanted to know is, all right, was this even worth doing? Does anybody see it? Should we bother continuing to do it? Okay, I don't know, did I get that? Is that Margaret? Margaret's that one?
Oh,
Oh, you're sharing, okay, you're good. I didn't make it up, sorry.
You can share.
Okay, so the first one, that's it, we'll share. Yeah. Here's nothing. So that, there's a couple, like,
like really useful pieces of information. The top, under it, where it says viewer activity, you see a number. And then, like on the first one, it says 120, so there were 120 people who only watched for 3 seconds. Then over to the right, it says 9 seconds, that was the average number of time people spent on videos, so not a lot, right? So most people watch less than 3 seconds, some people watch a little bit more. But then when you go below the little graph line, that's not very helpful, you'll see that there were 46 people who watched for 15 seconds, and the videos are only like 30 seconds long, so they got most of the information, and 250 people were reached. So that's how many people actually saw that we did that, right?
Quick question, are those unique viewers, or do we know if those are people who clicked?
I think they're unique, right?
Those are unique, okay, great, thank you.
All right, so this was the first time we ever did it. It was back in October. The rest you can sort of ignore the rest of the page. I don't find it super interesting unless you want to see, like, most of the people were followers, you know, that were already on our page at the bottom. All right, so then the second one, the beautiful yellow print because Sharon's over using a copier. I don't know, that's what's. Oh, you got my copy.
That was part of the budget book.
Yeah, we'll blame it on the budget. So 149 viewers, so we went up a little bit, at 3 seconds. 46 viewers again that watched for 15 seconds, and then we went up a little bit with 265 people reached. So a little bit of an improvement, so that's good. Second time we posted, we did a little better. Next one, we did even better. We had 320 people that watched for 3 seconds, and we had 15-second views, and 662 people reached. So, you know, a growing audience. And then we dropped off a little bit on the last meeting, which was right before Christmas, a week before Christmas. I don't hold it is what it is on that information. So I'm gonna kind of disregard the last post, although it still wasn't bad. We had 193 second views. So, I mean, my takeaway is that it's gaining a little bit of traction, and so we should probably keep doing it. If it was horrible, then I would say not to worry about it anymore. And then the other piece, I'm gonna probably mess up exactly how this works, is that Ryan has been using the videos, and then he intersplices some of the imagery from the meetings, and then also uses it on Falmouth Focus, which is aired on public TV. So we have no way of knowing how many people see that, but at least it's out there as something. Mentioning to people that we meet, and then they can see the videos if they should want to watch the whole meeting.
That's great, thank you, Ryan, for doing that.
I know, that's awesome. And for pulling these analytics.
I know.
Makes me look so organized.
Leah.
I love the data piece of this, but I'm wondering if we could see if it aligns with how many people are participating in our meetings, like if we have like hot topics, you know,
Sure.
that. So potentially, it could be that we more so post that when there's like a lot of interest, you know, that we're kind of using our resources in the right way. But I think we need more to look at to see if that's the case. But I think, you know, looking at, you know, is it just an increase or was there a hot topic?
Yeah,
on that
I can
one
definitely
day?
go back and just look at what was on the agenda.
And then how many participants came that day?
Yeah.
Easily. I think that might be a nice way for us to kind of like, if we have to prioritize when we're gonna put information out, those would be the facts.
Absolutely.
And oh, go, sorry.
I like to speak usually. It's usually what Facebook will put in front of people, so as they've shown an interest in the videos, it basically Facebook is suggesting stuff in the feed. We've seen how Facebook works that way. So as people are paying more attention to it, it's getting in front of more people that way. Not people are seeking out necessarily, it's push, not pull.
Oh, that's helpful. Yes, and also if we share them.
So as, just in general with social media, as you're putting out more stuff, typically you gain more of an audience that way, just as a suggestion.
Yeah, so that, because I know just enough to be dangerous with social media, and one of my questions, because I saw on the third one, Kelly, that was yours, and I was wondering if that was shared, because my understanding is the more that people share, the more eyes that it gets in front of.
More likes.
Also,
Yeah, One with 9 of us sharing potentially, if we can share it ourselves, it might work even better.
Yeah. And then how many, do you know, Ryan, how many total page followers we have for?
Off the top of my
I
head,
guess I'm just trying to see, are those numbers, how do they stack up?
I want to say for the district page, we have at least 2,000 followers.
Okay.
The problem is Facebook continues to change their algorithm, so it's hard to predict how and who it will get in front of, unfortunately. Video content typically does better.
Yeah, right.
So then the other thing that I'm interested in looking at will be whether or not, because what we're really doing is inviting people to actually watch the meeting. It's a quick summary, but it doesn't really have any information, it doesn't have any votes or anything. So going back and looking at whether or not more people are watching, because we have a counter, right, on our YouTube page, and looking at that to see.
Has it been the hook?
Yeah, which is what we really wanted, like, that was the whole point, is that it's communication in both directions. So not only are we gonna, have more listening sessions with the staff and with the public to hear what people have to say, but also are they receiving information about what we're actually doing? So if more people are watching videos of our meetings, that would imply that maybe they know a little bit more, or they just needed to fall asleep, it could be either.
And Kelly, you mentioned the listening sessions, do you have a target month for the next?
We have.
series? Okay, no worries. Yeah, just curious, thank you so much, this is really interesting, I love, like this.
Well, we have numbers, makes it really, not a target.
That's great. Okay, thank you, Kelly, for that update, and thank you to all the leads of goal number 1. And goal number 2, to advance efforts to address equity, inclusion, diversity, belonging, and systemic racism in Pelham Public Schools. Would either Andrea or Margaret like to lead this discussion?
Okay, we talked about, getting back to the common definition of definitions. That we talked, apparently prior to my being here, you talked about definitions, but coming to the same definitions has not been clear, so that was one of the things that was mentioned. Networking with a group of people, Azorian, Brazilian, Hispanic, highlighting their holidays, and particularly having student voices in this, nothing like her data.
Yeah.
Okay, training for school committee people, self-reflection, the notion of what is culture, cultural competency, co-conspirators, or being able to have uncomfortable conversations. And I'm going to follow up with, I've been in touch with the school that presented at the conference, and they were very good. One of the things they said, which was not our topic, but I will bring up, is that instead of having a DEI person, because that title can be divisive. A director of I forgot it.
Advancement and opportunity.
Yeah, opportunity, yeah, advancement opportunity, and I know you've talked about this before, but I really do think that that's important in terms of getting a buy-in and getting people, and that wasn't part of our discussion, but I did mention to Natalie that I bring that up. But one of the things I think is very important is focus on the school committee and our being more conversant, being able to have some uncomfortable conversations together and doing some self-reflection of what is culture. I'm an anthropologist, so.
Thank you, Margaret. Anything else you'd like to add?
I think I'll just kind of build on what Margaret was talking about with other groups. We had an update from the partnership that we built with the Wampanoag tribe. And I know that other organizations have been brought up in the past to come to present to school committee. And we try to have a bit of a brainstorm to open that up and make it more expansive. And we realize that in order to do that, there's some networking that needs to happen. And so we kind of made a short list of who we might reach out to and broach the idea and then see where it might go from there. So that's on our to-do list.
Thank you. Any questions?
Can I just add that, and considering that I'm on the social and emotional wellness committee, I am branching out and meeting, talking to people in the community, various groups of people, and collecting data. The data I'm collecting is, number one, what are the specific needs of this population, if they are, then we can be cognizant of it, and what are the resources available. So I'm also doing that in another capacity, so
That's great. I would love to hear more about that in the upcoming meeting.
I've got notes on that.
I'll love you too. Okay, thank you, Margaret. And goal 3, to participate in efforts to address school safety and security. Either Bill or Melissa would like to share meeting updates or anything that you've discussed.
So I can speak to the meeting, the first meeting that we had, which I found was robust. It was at the high school. We heard from the director of safety and security, and he told I think there was about 35, 40 people there from various schools, talking about the safety measures, kind of introducing what the plan is moving forward, what his goal in collaboration with Dr. Durr's goal, and hearing the goals of the schools, speaking with them separately, and then sort of bringing it all together, and then what his vision looked like moving forward. I found the conversation candid and engaging, and I was pleasantly surprised as far as the data that was brought to us. I thought that there were some really good ideas that were presented, and I was looking forward to the next meeting, of which was yesterday, but life happened and I did not get there. So, but Bill, do you have anything more to add to that, or?
Yeah, unfortunately, I had a work conflict yesterday, so I wasn't able to make it here either. But, you know, I think the important thing to take away from what we've done in the district so far this year is we've heard it a number of times, the feedback that we've got about the school safety monitors in the school. This is something that people have wanted. This is something that it is valued by our administrators, our students. And we heard the presentation earlier from our student representative about the just the concern about using a bathroom at the high school. And so it's encouraging to hear the positive feedback that we've gotten about school safety monitor positions. And I think that's something that moving forward, we should continue to look at, you know, maybe even be expanding, but I don't want to get ahead of us. But I'm encouraged at the fact that our safety community meetings have resumed, even though life happens and both of us are in that position this last meeting. But there was a lot of engagement at that first meeting that we were at from a wonderful cross-section of our community. And I'm encouraged about the engagement there and the positive feedback we've gotten so far from the district.
Yeah, we're really excited to hear, to, I guess, ultimately be introduced to our director, to sort of put a name to a face, if they had not already met him, of which I think most everyone had met him at that point. Everyone that had spoke very highly of the safety personnel in their school. They said that they appreciated knowing that somebody was going around and checking the doors and just checking in with the classrooms and just, you know, going around the grounds. It just kind of made them feel better. Not that they wouldn't necessarily do it themselves, like if they had a classroom that had a door, or, you know, I think most all classrooms, not every, but a lot of the classrooms in our district have windows. Like, of course, the adult in the room is going to make sure the door is closed and make sure the windows are okay, but just knowing that they didn't have to that there was an additional layer of security, I guess is what I'm trying to say, so that they could really keep their focus on the students and, you know, direction and instruction. So I was very disappointed that I couldn't make yesterday. It weighed heavy on me, but again, life, and I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Great, thank you, and thank you all for all of your work and keeping us on target with our goals. I appreciate that. Next on our agenda is superintendent update. Lori.
Thank you. So to let Melissa and Bill know about yesterday's meeting and everybody else, everything you mentioned continued. We had great participation and a lot of enthusiasm continued, so that was good. Our first item yesterday was to hear from this Say Something Anonymous reporting system. We had talked in the first meeting about an anonymous tip line. There were 3 organizations that Paul Stefanelli had reached out to. One was just cannot take any more on. And one has just been so busy that they're having trouble finding a time that they can actually share with us what they do. But this third one was actually, this was created, and right now it's under grant funding, so it would be at no cost to us, and they can accept us. But this was created by the Sandy Hook community. So this Say Something, and we were able to meet their team, and the number of, they actually had the people from the actual call center. And so we kind of, we had one representative, and then they had pictures of the call center. So how this tip line actually works, to get to the point, is that calls would go into this call center. They would then screen all the calls for credibility, and then they would triage. It would be life threatening or life, what's the word? Life threatening, right? It was life threatening and non-life threatening events. The non-life threatening events, they would forward to us during our work hours that we could then respond to, that we need. And then the life threatening would go right into 911. And then whoever or whatever team would be on call at the time, 24/7. But they did break down the information, and this was somewhat surprising. They broke down the information about how many calls to expect. And so they shared that with a student body of 500, that you get about 20 calls a year. Of the 20 are 14 that are non-life threatening that would be shared during the day. 6 would come in at around the nighttime that they would share. I wasn't quite sure about this, and your notes may reflect a little bit differently, 1 being life threatening.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And so, yeah, Sonia was there too. We had lots of people there. This is around the table. Yes. So we found that interesting, but I think one of the components of that is that they actually do training with the students. And they talk about this. And so this is not supposed to take place of a trusted adult. And they talk about the value of why sharing something with the adult in the school. And one of our questions after the presentation was, is there a direct correlation with, if students are getting this training and are encouraged to talk to a trusted adult, are these numbers less because of that? But it is free. I think the recommendation as a group last night was that we should give this a try. And I'm getting head nods that everyone kind of got that feeling. We haven't, it was last night, we haven't actually had a chance to even get together and process this, but that we should look into this further. We have an opportunity to participate this year. It would be at no cost. We could track this. So I think just the specifics of figuring out who that kind of 24/7 team might be, rotating roles. But knowing that if it's life threatening, it always goes to 911. So you always have to have this. So that's kind of where we're looking at for that. And then the other piece was we updated Paul, our safety coordinator, looked at our comprehensive emergency management plan and made all the updates based on everything new around, the ALICE training, navigate our procedures, all of our updated procedures, make sure that the book is up and compliant with what we're doing. And we had a couple of feedback that we're gonna take tomorrow to our administrative team to consider. And that was it. But we're gonna have an updated manual and our plan that's required of districts. And we have I think a reporting system that we're having.
That's great.
Yeah, so.
Can I ask a question about the same something? What age range is that for?
So they talked about grades 6 to 12, is the students that they actually train, but they do have a curriculum for K to 5 as well. And because we have a 5-6 school, there was some discussion, they said that we could absolutely take the curriculum, and other schools have done 5th grade, so the same curriculum was across that grade. Or we would have the option of, if you want to train those students as well, we could use the other curriculum to decide, but, and I mean, those are kind of some decisions we would, have to grapple with and make some decisions. Good question.
Sure,
And just to, throw some extra information at that, having been in SRO, liaison in schools, there's always a separate curriculum for the younger elementary kids and the older students. It's certain things that you need to get the points across, but they have to be done in completely different ways. You're not gonna do a stranger danger with high school kids, but you are with younger kids, vice versa. Some things aren't gonna be discussed with much younger kids, but I just want to point out the one life-threatening call out of the single 500, and it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you put that one life out there, and when we talk about what our priority is, I think that really resonates and puts things in perspective. So I'm glad we're moving forward with that.
Or could you please send me some just notes from yesterday, just to kind of catch myself up?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm sure it's true for, all organizations or, companies that we partner with, especially ones coming into school. But I just want to say out loud that I want them to be like really vetted, because we're encouraging our kids to talk to these people. And I'm sure they're fine, but due diligence, of course, because we're gonna rely on their, their judgment, their discretion, their kindness. And I don't want to have a false sense of security, so I'm sure everybody will. It will be well vetted, as I'm sure everything is, but just want to say it out loud, so.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, a couple more. So I just wanted to mention that through our work with the finance members that represent the schools, it was brought to our attention that we've had several warrants out that for capital projects, and just kind of going back and reviewing each project. So Alex worked with our lead custodians and went through each project and noted where we are in the process. There are a number of capital projects that we're still working on, but 2 particular we have completed, and there's some excess dollars there. And so our finance members recommended that we ask for the April town meeting to move the excess funds that have already been granted to the school district to other pertinent projects that we would want to get done this summer, and not leave the money sitting there. So with that said, and Alex did his background on this, we have the 2 projects that are completed are the Morse pond tile replacement and the reviewing the generators across the district. So with that said, we have the priorities that our lead custodians come up with is, number 1, the elevator at the Lawrence School. And it is to a point that I don't think they're gonna approve the use if we don't do something quickly with that. And that project is about 160,000. The second priority in the list was the fire alarm system at Morse Pond. And again, is, concerns that it's near its life and needs to be replaced, and that project is 90,000. And then the remainder of those dollars would be 66,779, and we're asking that that money be put toward cameras. We've identified a number of cameras through the security audits in the schools, and that the additional money be put toward the cameras. So just wanted to kind of give you a heads up and let you know that is kind of on the radar. I also want to let you know, speaking of capital projects, we have 3 roofs that are recommended for replacement. We did get a repair plan over several years, very costly. And when you look at it, instead of spending all the money on repairs and still needing a replacement within five years, makes more sense to maybe move forward. So we've been working with the town around this. I've also asked for us to consider, actually, not I agree. Alex asked for consideration around the solar, which I absolutely agree with that. And so we've had a presentation, we've had some communication with the town around this. If we were going to replace the roof, let's make sure it's a company that can look at the solar panels on that. So right now, the town's looking at it and potentially putting in a warrant for a engineer to look at the design and make a design and tell us what the cost of replacing it with 3 years.
All 3 together.
Well, that's what the town said, yeah. It's overwhelming. But because of the need of all 3 roofs, the town's actually considering that this could be a potential roof project. But we need more information, and so maybe putting in a warrant for the cost of the OPM, the design, and getting that back so we actually know what we're doing with.
So once we have the OPM, does that enable us to apply for MSBA reimbursement, or are they not doing that anymore on your maintenance base?
So they're not, they've suspended it right now, but our roofs wouldn't qualify anyway because they have to be 30 years or more, and our roofs are not.
Oh, okay.
So we wouldn't, even though it's suspended, we wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. And the town's aware of that, and we've gone through that whole process. So just wanted to update everyone, more information to come as we keep moving along.
Andrea.
With the items that you've identified for the surplus funds, I know that we've had that outlook of capital projects over time, right, that we've been putting in. So were these items like the elevator and the fire alarm system, are those in outlying years, and so we're just bumping them up sooner by doing that? Okay.
Actually, I think that the fire alarm was it last year or this year? I'm looking over it.
We might have actually
Passed
them for other
projects. I actually think both. I'm not sure.
and
both
now
are,
it's at the point where we can't pass them.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that they're part of
But
that.
they were
That's such a good document for looking out to the future and for prioritizing. We were talking a lot about that, and having something like that is so good for the capital projects. It's a good model for so many other things we do as well.
Just on that note, if I might add, Alex is looking at the 10-year plan, which I believe we're in year 6 of that 10-year plan. Yeah, year 5 or 6, we're there. And looking at all the next several years, and with the lead custodians, and if need be, someone in to kind of check to see, like, now that so many years has passed, should that be relooked at and reprioritized? And are there other issues that have come up since that plan has been developed that actually moves ahead of those projects. So kind of retaking a look at that, but we'll have something in the spring to bring to you to look at. And we'll be asking you obviously to, in July, to revote on a capital.
And then we're gonna make a tie with the director of sustainability, the solar project is like this.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about that document and how incredibly helpful it is to look at when we do skip a project, what happens. And, to see, okay, well, if we're prioritizing things that aren't actually on the priority list, what actually happens in the long run? Really helpful, so that we don't make that happen. But I am concerned around the 3 roofs at the same time, because that means there's gonna be 3 roofs at the same time next time. And so I do think that, the town should really consider pacing that a little bit, so we're not gonna be looking for 3 roofs again in however years, just,
I can't say that there's been a decision made, it's just that I think all 3 have to be looked at now, whether in the end it's decided that it'll be 1 each summer or 2 in 1 year, 1 in the following, right, because summer's the only time we can do this. But consideration about the amount of money that we have to spend per roof on repairs versus the replacement, and just, looking at, balancing, that consideration is all.
it's just a hard sell, we have to come back for 3 more roofs, and, later on in time. Yeah.
I completely agree, and not just that, but any construction project, anything could happen. And so if we end up down a building in September because something went wrong in the roofing project, we can make do, maybe. But if we have 3, God knows.
Oh, it's
terrible.
it's quite crazy.
One summer, one summer, not.
No, I don't know that. No,
Yeah,
there was
there
some talk, they were way in, but they did actually talk about, could they handle going all 3 at one time, which would, which is a lot of management.
One contractor walked away from the job. or not.
And then,
What?
that's, current member.
Margaret.
Margaret.
Yeah, this may be a bit controversial, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I'm sort of stuck on the vaping problem, and I'm glad that there are monitors in the bathroom, but at the conference, other schools said they don't really work very well. I'm wondering if there's any consideration of cameras in the bathroom with vaping occurs.
Yeah, absolutely, cannot
Cannot
have,
do it?
pardon, cannot have cameras in the bathroom. Sorry.
That was clear.
That was, yeah, sorry. I know, that's good, I'm sorry. Margaret. I said, we won't do it now. I'll try to be softer on that one, but.
I can deal with it.
Okay, no, and I will say though, we have talked to several schools that do believe that they have been a deterrent. And that the number of referrals, the number of incidents they've had actually has gone down. And it starts, at the beginning, you're gonna have an increase, obviously, and then it starts settling out. So the ones that have been doing it for a number of years are so glad that they haven't. So.
I'm glad the students are taking a lead in this. I
Yes.
think that's good, but I think it's a real concern is, it's been a focus of work for a long time.
I absolutely agree, and I am glad, it's, to me, it's having it student driven, and the student involvement is just, it's really important, so.
Thank you.
And then my final update, there was a request for information at the last meeting about the number of our students with disabilities that are leaving the district. And so we have an overall number of 694 students that are on IEPs. And 53 of those students, and I'm doing a 1-year time frame, okay? So 53 of the students have left the district, but of those 53, 34 physically moved out of the district. 34 has moved out of the district in that time frame. Other reasons of the other 19, some went to online, some took the high step, a couple went homeschool. We did have one drop out, one went to the Upper Cape. We had one school choice. And then we had 6 students that went to private. We have a student dropped out, non-attendance.
What's ISAT? Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh,
what else you got?
that's your GED.
Thank
There's
you.
already-
Thank you.
So, just wanted to share that information. And then that would be it.
Thank
So do you
you.
have any students who have come in to our district who?
So, good question, and I can provide that information. I appreciate it. At the next meeting. So, unless you have something to add? No.
Can I just clarify the number of the active audience?
It's not 6 and change?
I think it's 194. 6 and change.
That's a lot, I mean.
I'll verify
Okay, so maybe if we got incorrect information, so, okay.
Was that for the year? I guess I should clarify, was it a moment in time?
It was from September of last year through September of this year, which could include students coming and going.
Okay, thank you.
It was over a year. September.
Any
But we'll-
Thank you.
questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much for the update. Next is routine business, approved school committee minutes of December 13th, 2022. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any edits to the meeting minutes? Okay, great. Terry?
Yes,
Bill Werner?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's keep yes.
Welch, yes.
Only here for a half hour, so I'll abstain.
Abstain, okay. And Natalie Colon was also a yes. Okay, next, committee member reports. Any updates? We've been waiting on breaks. I can't imagine there's too much to report, but is there anything?
I actually went to Linda Coon's presentation around Thanksgiving. And I'm looking forward to other presentations, so I just wanted to report that I did feel there was some resources. I actually ended up purchasing one of the books that was recommended around really understanding our history and history of Thanksgiving, so.
That's great.
And the next one's on Wampanoag.
Yes,
all
that. Yeah. Any other committee member reports? Margaret?
Well, this is a report, but I was asked by Reverend Appeals to mention to the school committee that week from Friday will be the Martin Luther King breakfast. No Place for Hate sponsoring it. I think you might know who the speaker is. And I just am delivering that message to the Reverend Appeals.
Great, thank you. Melissa?
I just want to say I had the pleasure of chaperoning the senior honor art students to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum a few weeks ago, just before Christmas, and it was always enlightening to be with Miss Baker's students, and they are a wonderful group, and it was always a pleasure to go to that museum. So again, thank you for asking me, Miss Baker, and if any other committee members have been on her field trips or have the opportunity, I highly suggest you go. I also went on one in the fall out to Western Mass. I try to go to as many as she asks me to, it doesn't always work out, but they're an amazing group of students. They, the locations that Ms. Baker and her team choose are equally as amazing, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it, so I just plug in that.
Great, thank you. And very quickly, the subcommittee liaison descriptions that we all have access to, if you haven't already done so, please update the information that is listed. And then once we have everything, Kelly, I volunteer Kelly to review the document and bring any edits back to school committee. And then also I saw a flyer for the LPAC, which is the English Learners Parent Advisory Committee. They're having a dinner and conversations at Morse School on January 25th, which is a Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30. I thought that was interesting and needed to have a shout out.
So I will be going to that as an liaison.
Yeah.
And then I had something else to say. Evaluation update. Sorry about that, I forgot. I received, I think a total of 7 observations. Is that?
I received it.
Oh. Okay, I didn't receive one then. Okay. So, half of them, I think, are going to you, Lori, right now, or that you
Yeah,
received.
all of them, I've got all of it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So you'll send it to me?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
I
then
did,
send it to me.
well, I did
Okay.
see.
I got some of them.
I'll just be clear, I responded to 4, and I
Okay.
sent those to you, I
Yes.
did not respond to the other 4.
Okay,
So you
so
have,
then
you should have it.
you'll,
Yeah, I'll just send you an email. And we have,
Okay.
to make sure that we have the same.
yes.
Yes.
So there have been observations done. Thank you. Thank you, Margaret.
Hello,
Hello.
hello.
Hi, Terry. Terry, go ahead. Apologies.
I had my hand up for a long time. I didn't know if you saw it. At the policy meeting last week came up about the nature of Zoom meetings and the legality of them in the state outlook on them and the town outlook on them. And so an attendance at them, whether you have to be present with your face versus putting just your name up and stuff. Anyway, and I thought maybe we could have a protocol review of the whole committee where we sit down and look at our protocols and see if we need to change them based on some new rules by the town and the state. So I don't know how to go about setting that up, but I think we need to do it. So.
Great, thank you, Terry. So Andrea will speak to that, but she did reach out to me and we were gonna work on a potential date for all of us to meet.
Yeah, because I think we've talked about earlier about, we have our summer retreat, but that there's need for more learning and to schedule something in the winter. And these couple items did come up during policy, and we thought those would be great things for a retreat or a workshop. So Natalie and I are just starting to discuss some dates, and we'll get those out to you really soon so that we can get that scheduled and make it happen.
Yeah, so Terry is on our radars, but thank you very much for that as well. I know I'm looking there, I don't know where to look when you're.
When she talks, she comes in.
I know. Exactly, I'm hard with my eyes. But on that note, any other committee member reports? Okay, seeing none, I make a motion to move into executive session pursuant to general law 20A, section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requires, purpose 7, specifically the open meeting law GLC 30A, section 22FG, executive session minutes, and to conduct strategy with respect to FEA Unit A and C, and to discuss a non-union personnel matter. Having these discussions in public may be detrimental to the school committee's bargaining position. It is anticipated the school committee will not return to public session. Is there a second?
Prior to that, do we have a request for information?
So I think one more thing. So you probably sent an email or sent out that we have a form for
I did.
this.
So we're not allowed to ask for it during the meeting anymore?
Well, what I want to do is I want to use that process so that we can streamline it. I can track on request for information to make sure nothing potentially falls through the cracks.
Understood. We could, I could send it as well, but we're not allowed to ask for it in public anymore. Is that what you're
You know,
saying?
at this point, I think I would like to use the form. I mean, is there a concern about?
Well, I think it's an open meeting, it's a public meeting. I think they ought to know what we're at.
Right, so what we can do is we can try the form for now, and we can circle back and put it on an agenda item for discussion.
We can meet about that.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Work is lost. Yeah, thank you. And a roll call vote, Terry.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Yes.
Andrew Carl, yes.
Let's keep this. Both yes. Yes. And now Yvonne was also yes, we move into executive session.
Yeah.
Yeah.